You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. LSU is going to head up to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Missouri Tigers Saturday. Eli Hoff will be there. He covers Mizzou for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Eli, we appreciate the time again, man. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing today?
Man, we're doing good. Hoping LSU found some defense from the last time they were on the field. I've heard a lot this week coming out of Columbia about the vibes around this game. Sellout crowd, a lot of anticipation. What is it like there? What is the anticipation like around Columbia for this game Saturday?
Yeah, I think this is the most excitement there's been about Mizzou football in quite a few years here. You look at this 5-0 start for the first time in a decade, having already upset number 13 Kansas State a few weeks ago and down the field storming there, picking up 2 wins since then, and now some SEC momentum just after getting the win that the Tigers need to against Vanderbilt. I think there's a lot of excitement here. And to be honest, I think a lot of Mizzou folks are looking at LSU and looking at that 2020 game and looking at what happened last weekend in Mississippi and saying, hey, this is a chance where Mizzou could go to 6-0 here and knock off another ranked opponent. So I think there's just a lot of optimism and energy around this team right now. Eli,
are you surprised to see LSU favored in this game?
I was a little bit, to be honest, just with it being in Columbia, it being a sold-out game, and Mizzou having just seemingly found its stride here. Maybe it's that Vegas just defers to LSU in a shootout situation, since there probably won't be too much defense on Saturday. But I was overall just a little surprised to see LSU favored, especially. This is how it was. Kansas State was favored coming into that game, and Harrison Mevis had something to say about that. So maybe a bit of a surprise going into this one.
So you said we might not see much defense. I think we all understand the struggles that LSU has had defensively. Let's talk a little bit about Missouri on that side of the ball. Where have some of the defensive shortcomings shown up?
Yeah, it's been sort of weird because going into this season, everyone expected Mizzou's defense to be the stronger half of this team, especially after sort of emerging last year and bringing back a lot of guys who maybe could have gone elsewhere, could have gone on to the NFL even. So I think part of it is the pass rush, just being able to get home to Daniels, especially without having to send a ton of pressure. That's something that's to be determined how good exactly this pass rush is. Darius Robinson, who's one of the most experienced players in the program and one of the best pass rushers who can line up at multiple spots there. He's been dealing with a calf strain all season, sat out last week as a sort of, let's try and get him healthy maneuver. So we'll see if he's back this weekend. But then the secondary has also been a concern there. Chris Abrams-Brain, the cornerback, has been a lockdown corner. But besides him, the defensive backs as a whole have had some lapses, especially in man coverage. Eli Drinkwitz, after Mizzou's win against Memphis a couple weeks ago, just really laid into them after the game that the man coverage was not where it needed to be. And, of course, you look at LSU's receiving core, and being able to actually stick to guys is going to be an important thing this weekend. So I think that's probably the biggest question mark entering this one for Mizzou's defense.
He's on Twitter at @Eli Hoff, Hoff. St. Louis Post-Dispatch covers the Missouri Tigers, LSU heading up to Columbia. So while the defense might have been a little shaky at times for Mizzou this year, the offense looks like over the last month they've really started to hit their stride. Has there been a change or a progression that you've seen in this offense? Where has that sort of progression come from week one to now?
Yeah, there's been a huge switch that seems to have flipped for Kirby Moore in this offense. Through the first 2 games, Mizzou's offense just looked really flat, a lot like it has in years past. A lot of trying to kind of establish and force the run and not a lot of deep shots connecting. But then ever since that Kansas State game, the playbook just seems to have opened to a whole new chapter, a whole new section of longer shots being taken, some play action looks. The team's barely using some of the bubble screens that were kind of a trademark in years past. They're bringing in some younger players like Marquise Johnson, who's a true freshman speedster who's coming in and just basically running in a straight line and catching passes that way. It seems like a lot is really going well, and I think it comes down to Brady Cook. He's making the throws, even with battling a knee injury there. Luther Burden is playing like the best wide receiver in the country, so it just seems like everything is working for Missouri, and that opens up the playbook to a very large degree schematically.
Eli, I think a lot of people here have heard a lot of us talk about Luther Burden this week. And he leads the SEC in receptions. He's at 43 catches right now, 644 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's been awesome. He's as advertised. If you were to describe Luther Burden's game for those who have heard the name but haven't seen him play, how would you describe him?
Yeah, well, I think in a word, it's remarkable, and I know that's not the greatest description of it, but last year he's emerged as a true freshman, sort of just a speedster, agile guy. You're kind of prototypical like punt returner, wide receiver type. But over the offseason, he bulked up and strengthened up. So he's 12th in the country in contested catches this year. He's holding onto the ball through contact because it seems like the kind of opposition game plan has been to try to knock him around, and that just hasn't been working. He makes guys miss, and he'll hold onto the ball and lower his shoulder when he can't make them miss. He's got great hands. He's got great speed. He's very elusive there and has the side-to-side mobility. So he strikes me as a wide receiver who's just very, very tough to cover and hard to bring down once he has the ball. And so Missouri is going to look to find him in any sort of space, whether that's deep or behind the line of scrimmage. They just want to get the ball in his hands and see what happens.
Aside from Luther Burden, who else is there on that offense that is a threat to be a game breaker?
Yeah, I think in terms of wide receivers, Theo Weiss Jr., he's an Oklahoma transfer. He's a little bit more of a sizey wide receiver. He's over 6 feet, 200 pounds. They'll look to him in the red zone a lot where he can use that frame, especially if he gets man coverage in the red zone, Mizzou's going to look to him probably 9 times out of 10. Brady Cook himself, depending how that knee's going, he can make plays with his feet. He's people describe him as sneaky athletic. He really shouldn't be at this point. He shouldn't be catching anybody by surprise with that. In terms of the running game, Cody Schrader, in terms of yardage, has been one of the most productive running backs in the SEC and in the country. He's been getting a really good push from the offensive line lately. He's above 2 yards before contact on most of his carries. But then one of the other guys is who I mentioned earlier on, Marquise Johnson, is a true freshman, probably the fastest guy in the program. He's got basically high school track experience. He was a heck of a runner in Texas and has come here and he'll just run deep and Brady Cook will put some air under it. So he's another threat that they'll look to him probably just a couple times over the course of the game, but it's been working so far.
I always ask a special teams question because when you play close games, a kick here or there, field position, or made kick or missed kick could obviously swing a game. Eli, I don't know that anybody needs a reminder that Missouri hit a 61-yarder to walk off Kansas State earlier this year. Are they solid in all phases in that third phase?
It's been up and down this season. Obviously, that 61-yarder on the walk-off against K-State was that was a pretty good highlight for the special teams unit.
Pretty good, bro. 61-yarder. I mean, oh my God. I've never seen a 61-yarder in college, but it's incredible.
Yeah, no, it is. It's an incredible kick and a testament to Mevis. It's sort of been the pieces around him that there have been some question marks. He missed his first extra point of his college career earlier in the season. The team made a change at long snapper for the field goal unit. There's been some issues with the holds, so it's really all the pieces around Mevis that need to come together. But in terms of punt and kick coverage, that's been getting better. The kick returners, you'll see some maybe questionable decisions on bringing it out of the end zone at times, but it's all coming together a little bit better. I think last week against Vanderbilt was probably the cleanest special teams game. Again, the 61-yarder was in a category of its own, but it's a unit that's been getting gradually better week to week.
61-yard field goal in college, bro. We're looking at it right now. And like a no-doubter too. He cleared the uprights, but 7-8 yards. It was incredible to see that. Anyway, a couple more for you. And Eli Hoff's with us. He's on Twitter at by Eli Hoff. St. Louis Post-Dispatch covers Mizzou. When we were at Media Days this past July, there's always the question of, okay, well, every year we go to Media Days, it's going to be some coach's last Media Days. And Drinkwitz was a pretty popular answer among the media in Nashville this summer as to say who's not going to be back next year. Well, here's Mizzou at 5-0. How stable footing, maybe not be the best way to ask it, Eli, but what is the feeling there, administration, fan base, on Eli Drinkwitz at this point in his time there in Columbia?
Yeah, I think the last 3 games in particular have been ice cubes on his chair. The seat has gotten significantly colder as this team as the offense has just found its stride. So I think it's significantly safer. You look at Mizzou's now in a spot at 5-0 that one more win gets them bowl eligible. 2 more wins sets a new Mizzou high in wins in the Drinkwitz era. So they're 2 wins away from showing improvement under him, which is what I think probably needs to happen for him to really feel secure. So, I wouldn't say at this point his job is 100% safe. It's the SEC. Weird things can happen. Teams need to be competitive. But at this point, he's certainly, had as good of a start as he could have possibly asked for from a hot seat perspective.
Yeah. Their non-conference portion of the schedule's done. It's all conference games heretofore for Mizzou. They'll get a chance at a ranked LSU team coming in on Saturday. Before you go, what would be the blueprint for Mizzou on Saturday, Eli, if it went according to plan for Drink and the boys?
I think offensively, it'll be ideally getting Brady Cook running the ball again. It'll all depend on how his knee's doing. He hyperextended it and picked up a bone bruise against Kansas State and hasn't been 100% since. So if he can get running, that'll open up a lot for the offense. They'll look to keep establishing the run, but mix in some of those play action shots. Find Luther Burden on some of the deep crossing routes, see if Marquise Johnson's open deep. And then I think defensively, it'll be getting a pass rush to the quarterback when they're only sending 4 or 5 guys, that Blake Baker's not having to sell out and send 6 or 7, I think will be ideal. But again, like I said earlier, it'll come down to man coverage there. Chris Abrams-Strain can lock somebody down, but can Ennis Rakestraw step up in the coverage department? Can some of the safeties step up in the coverage department? Can the linebackers when they have to fill in? I think that's what it'll come down to. But you'll see some creative pressure from Blake Baker too, I think, with where he's sending guys from.
Eli Hoff, St. Louis Post-Dispatch, up there covering Mizzou. We appreciate a couple of minutes, man. Thank you.
For sure. Y'all have a good one.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.